All right, here is the POLDIAC by mmvapors.com. A couple of quick little specs. It is 160 euros, and if you do order it between now and January 1st, you do get all three sized battery tubes, so 18650, 18500, and 18350, with their respective pants. The pants I'll get into later in the tutorial, but it is a incredibly well-performing PV. It has to be the absolute hardest hitting device I have ever tried, and I have tried damn near everything that's out there right now. The contacts are all silver-plated brass. The silver plating is 15 microns thick, I believe, which is fairly thick as far as silver plating goes. And I believe Jim is using pure 99.9% silver, so no copper in the alloys there. It is pure silver, so as far as the IACS rating of silver, it is 105% conductive, meaning it is more conductive than the basic scale of conductivity is rated to quantify. So for reference, steel has an IACS rating of between 17 and 25%. Brass has upwards of 40%. Pure copper, which is what the scale is based on, has 100%. And silver, again, has 105%. So it is an incredibly conductive, beautifully performing PV. It hits damn hard. The button, geniusly designed. Overall construction, damn near perfect. The finish, as always with Jim's work, spot on, 100%. Couldn't be happier with it. But it is a very complex device as far as the construction of the button and really the overall construction of the device. So this is going to be a full tutorial on the complete assembly and disassembly of everything, as well as a guide on how to configure the button from the bottom mounted position to the top mounted position. So if you have a POLDIAC and you're interested in answering a few questions you might have, this should answer just about everything. It's going to be a long one, so sit back and enjoy. That's it. Alright, so here's the POLDIAC broken down to its most basic components. So from left to right, we have the top cap, which is also your 510 cap. And here's the shirt. Here's the button, and this is the mostly assembled button. And on the Timon or POLDIAC BTO, it'll be listed as the POLDIAC button body. And here is the pants. This is the body tube. And on the far right is the bottom end cap. All right, now I'm going to show you the basic construction of the POLDIAC. So, starting with the body tube and the end cap, just going to thread those together. Okay. Next up, we're going to slide the pants just right over the tube. Then follows the button. As you can see here, this does not yet have the shirt on there. Okay, that's all together. Now, for the shirt, what Jim suggests is somehow lubricating the top O-ring here. He suggests using just straight PG, so no nick, no flavoring. But what I've had the best results with all mechanical mods with moving parts is just a tiny bit of Vaseline. So once that's lubricated, just press your button down and then slide it over, right over the button. You can see the O-ring did kind of pop up a tiny bit. Just nozzle it back and forth and keep going. And we're in. Now you don't want to twist the shirt around as you put it down. Ideally, you just want to straight slide down and lock it. So Now that that's on, the last thing we have left is the top cap. And that's the fully assembled POLDIAC. Now for your battery, I usually just switch it out via the bottom cap. So 18650 AW or 18650 MNKE IMR, so 1500 milliamp hours. Slide that in the bottom. And you're good to go. Now, the POLDIAC does have a side mounting button, as you can see here. And because it is more or less recessed into the actual surface of the tube, it doesn't really require a locking mechanism, though it does have one. And typically, I just leave mine unlocked all the time. But if you do ever feel inclined to lock it, it's as simple as just press the button down halfway, and then want to grab on right here onto the top of the battery housing or the button housing, and just slide the shirt over, and you're locked. And of course, to unlock, unlocked. And believe it or not, even though it does kind of slide over the button like that, it doesn't leave any noticeable marks on it. So you can see no real burrs or any scratches there. And works flawlessly. It is a totally foolproof button. There's no way that's going to get unscrewed in your pocket or anything. It's pretty firmly on there. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the locking button. A couple of tips. I do suggest twisting to the right when you're locking and unlocking it, because when you twist to the left, it's easy to unscrew the pant tube. So just twist to the right to make sure everything stays nice and tight. All right, here's the first individual component that I'll be showing. This is the 510 connector. Now, right off the inside, 510 threading. And then this ring right here is, I believe it's just a small drip well, in case you're using a standard 510 dripping addy. Then on the sides, you can see it does have the same slots as the button body and the bottom cap. And on the inside, there is this black Delrin insulator here. Now when you get it, you're definitely going to want to make sure that this is nice and tight. There are two slots cut out here, I believe for the sake of just getting a good grip on it when you are screwing and unscrewing it. These threads are normal threads, so just going to make sure that's locked down nice and tight. Now, just inside it, you can see those threads there. Now those are reverse threads, and the application there is for when you're using it in the bottom mounted button position, in which case you're going to use this little silver contact here. And now this is reverse threaded, so because you're going to be screwing in to the left, if the black Delrin insulator isn't tight enough, it'll just unscrew when you do it, so you're going to want to make sure that's nice and tight. So that's pretty much it for the top cap. One other thing worth noting, there are no slits in the top cap currently, so if you're using something with bottom fed airflow like a cargo tank or an Odysseus, for instance, you will need to maintain a slight gap with the top cap in your device. Though I know a buddy of mine, D-Spin, did suggest adding slits in the top cap like these slits are currently, but actually drilled all the way to provide an open airflow with the inside of the cap. But it's not in the work, or it's in the works, but it's not implemented just yet. So you will need a slight gap with a Penelope, Odysseus, IATI, cargo tank. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the top cap. All right, the next part I'll be featuring is the button. Now, the POLDIAC button is arguably the most complex button I've ever seen in a PV. And it's taken quite a bit of fiddling for me to really master it. And master it's probably not the right word, but to be competent enough with it to talk about it and to try and teach my viewers uh, how it works and how they can get the best results with it. So here's the basic instruction. Now, so this is the top end. As you can see here, you have the contact. Now these are reverse threaded, meaning to raise them, you're going to screw to the right, and to lower them, you're going to screw to the left. So to raise it, here we go. Now this top contact is your adjustable positive post for your 510. And mind you, this is all in the context of the bottom mounted button configuration. So depending on the height of that positive post, that is what will determine how high or low your atomizer sits on the top cap. So right here, I have my standard DID. I'm going to thread that on so we can see a slight gap right there. So what I'm going to do, pull that off, take my jeweler screwdriver, turn to the left half turn, and it's just about perfect. So if I put it on battery, see, it should be firing. And we're good to go. All right, so that's the adjustable positive pin. I'm gonna pull my DID off. Back on the setup base for safekeeping. Okay, and next up will be the bottom contact. Now, depending on the height of your batteries, I know of the major 18650s out there, there is some variation in the length of them, and also some are flat top, others are nipple top. So depending on that, you can adjust the height of that pin. And same idea, it is reverse threaded, so to raise the height, going to screw to the right, to lower it to the left. Now typically I keep mine locked down because with the spring and the batteries that I use, which are the MNKEs, I just feel most secure about it if it is totally locked down all the time. So that's pretty much that. All right, next up is the pants. And as you can see here, the pants are nothing more than just a straight stainless steel tube. They really don't serve any practical application. They're basically purely an aesthetic touch to the tube. The device is fully functioning without them, as you can see here. They're really just there if you wanted the more flush look on the tube, or for the sake of changing up your finishes, so you could have a matte pair of pants with a polished body, and this ring right here would show up as polished, whereas the rest of the tube would show up as matte. Personally, I have been using mine without the pants, though from time to time, to like throw them on there. It's kind of a nice touch to have the nice flush solid tube. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the pants. All right, now here is the body tube itself. threads up top, threads on the inner diameter of the bottom section of it. These threads are the same, these two up here. These are just the male, this is the female. And all of the primary threads throughout the entire device are universal. So these threads are the same as those on the bottom cap. And same goes for obviously the 510, the top cap, as well as the inner threads of the button on both ends. So that's pretty much it for the body tube. Alright, here is the bottom cap of the POLDIAC. As you can see, they have these nice engravings along the outer edge of them. They say POLDIAC right here. And they have the serial number. Then along the outer edge, the bottom, does have the same slots as in the button housing as well as in the top cap, except for every other slot is cut out. So as you can see here, they do feed on the inside, and those serve as the vent holes. Next up is the spring right here. So you can see the spring, it is silver plated. It's a silver plated brass, I believe. Now to put that in and out, just give it a wiggle, just yank it out, and it comes right out. And then to slot it back in, just give it a press. Kind of got to play with it a little bit to get the bottom ring all the way pressed in. Let's see. And we're in. There we go. And that's pretty much all there is to say about the bottom cap. Alright, I'm going to be doing the full disassembly of the POLDIAC button. And this is where things do get a little bit tricky, so bear with me. Alright, the first thing, I have disassembled everything else from it. I've taken the shirt off, but this is the basic housing, as you'll get it without the shirt. So first off, the basic screws, which are your adjustable contacts, those are reverse threaded, so we're going to screw to the right to remove them. Pull those off, put them out to the side. I'm just using a little jeweler screwdriver here. These are small enough that you can just use your fingers, but okay. So those are off. Next up, these larger screw heads here, as you can see on both ends. Now these are regular threaded, so to the left to remove them, you're going to want to find a little bit larger of a screwdriver here. Okay, now when we remove the second one, it is going to release our button. So I'm going to apply pressure so the magnet doesn't fly off. Here is the actual button itself. As you can see here, it is our magnet, and then that is attached to the basic black Delrin housing. And then this little silver contact here is the actual contact in the button. So I can remove that to show you. That is just press fit in, so you can just remove it yourself. And it's just this nice little silver rod. So the way the button works, slide that back in. When the button is in the housing, that rod will be face up. And then the two wider screws, these ones here, they slot in just right there. So when you press the button in, it completes the circuit on the side of the little cylinder. So, really elegant solution. And yeah, mine never misfires. Conductivity is bar none. Just the absolute best that I've seen yet. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the button. But now it gets even trickier. And I'm gonna finish the disassembly, and then I'm gonna show you how to put it all back together. So here is the bottom of the button. As you can see, there is that brass ring right there versus the top, which is just stainless. So I'm gonna take my little jeweler screwdriver again, put it into one of the slots, just force it to the left a little. Then from here, it should be loose enough to just unscrew with my fingers. Yep. That little brass ring just slots right out. Then the Delrin housing just comes right out. So, the flat surface here, that is actually the channel where your button slides in. Then on the back end, you can see this one slice running all the way up. That has two functions. First and foremost, that is the vent in case your battery fails, and that is for when you're using the bottom button configuration, but it's also a little channel so your magnet is able to adhere to the just the outer edge of the button body, I guess. So as far as putting it back together, you can see there is one end with a groove versus this end where it's flat. The grooved end is going to go in first. Let's go find that. Now right here, this is a little extra part. It's a tool that Jim supplies. Now you don't need to use this, but it does make the overall assembly much easier. So what we're going to do is just going to kind of wiggle it in to slot it so it fits in that channel perfectly, and that way when we secure down the brass, it doesn't move that around. Move the Delrin around so your button won't fit. So next up, gonna screw the brass ring back in. Okay, once that's about finger tight, take your screwdriver again. Get it nice and locked in. Okay. Looks pretty good. Next up, we're going to put our other magnet back in. This is kind of tricky, but the method that I've come up with that works well. So I take my needle nose tweezers here. Just get them in as far as they'll go, and I just drop it, and usually it slots right in perfectly. That looks about right. Okay. And for the rest of the reassembly, I'm going to take our button. I think you can put it in either way, but I'm just going to go with how the engraving is. So this is Jim's signature, if you didn't know. Okay, just going to slot that in. Just slip it in relatively quickly, because if you miss or you're slow about it, it will kind of kick the other magnet around and it'll end up falling out, which is a pain in the ass. So now that that's on, we're going to keep applying pressure so it doesn't slot out. We're going to start to screw the wider screws back in. So let's see if I can get that finger tight. Alright, now once that's in, our button will be secured. So you can see here, you can see the silver rod coming in. So it's an easier way to demonstrate when this part here is inserted all the way. So you can see that comes up and that makes contact with this little end of the post. So, and vice versa on the other end, the side that we just threaded back in. So. Okay. Great. All locked back in. Button is working just fine. And then the last step here, I did this on camera the first time, or off camera I should say, the O-rings. So you can see the gap just on the outside edge of the Delrin. Just gonna slot the O-ring right in there and then just press it down. Should give us a nice pressed fit. Looks good and flush. Then again on the other edge. Nice and flush. And then final step, the contacts themselves. And don't forget that these are reverse threaded. So we're going to screw these counterclockwise. It's locked in. Then the last one. And it's locked in, and we're now good to go. Alright, so that is the basic assembly of the button. Alright, so right now I'm going to show you how to configure the POLDIAC into the bottom mounted button configuration. As it stands now, you can see that the button is configured up top. So the first thing we're going to do, I'm going to pull the entire button housing off. Then we're going to take the top cap off and put the button off to the side. So with the POLDIAC, you will get a bag of extra parts, and included in that bag is this little contact right here. It does have a flathead screw, that little extension on one end, and then the other end will have a slight bevel to it on the inside. So I'm going to take that with the flathead screw end up, and this whole part, it is reverse threaded, so I'm going to slot it right into our top cap here, to the black Delrin, and apply downward pressure and twist to the left. One tip here is that you're going to want to make sure that the black Delrin is nice and tight in there, because as you screw that to the left and apply downward pressure, you do run the risk of unscrewing the black Delrin. So if you do continue to have problems with that, I suggest just pulling the Delrin out altogether and screwing that in first, and then threading the Delrin into the top cap. So that's that, just to get it started. The next up, we are going to take our atomizer. Let's thread that on. Then go back and tighten it all the way down. Now it won't screw anymore, so it's safe to assume that it has made contact with the positive pin. That's that for now. Next step here, we're going to take our bottom cap off. We're going to remove the spring from the bottom cap. I believe you will get an extra spring with your kit, but I only have one for now. And we're going to slot the spring up into the top cap, into that extra little silver contact that we just thread it into the top cap. And it can be a little tricky, just as it is with the bottom cap, but with a little fiddling, it'll snap right in. That's in right now. Okay, next up, once that's firmly in, we're going to take our body tube, and what was the bottom, the female threads at the end, it's going to be the top now. It's going to thread right onto the top cap. The next step is we're going to take our button housing, and because the button's not going to be at the bottom, we're going to need a place for the any potential gas to vent if your batteries fail. So on the inside of both ends, you can see the O-ring right here. I'm going to take some needle nose tweezers, kind of shimmy them around the inner edge just till I can get it caught. There we go. Pull that out. Then on the other end, I'm going to do the same. There we go. As you can see, right there, there is that little slit in the Delrin, and that does go all the way through. And now that's going to serve as our vent, as well as the one right here. There's one on each end. All right. So next up, now that our O-rings have been removed, I'm going to take the bottom cap, and you're going to thread it onto the opposite end of the other slots. So that's how it'll go on in its final step. But before we can just lock it on, finally, we're going to need to adjust this bottom contact to make contact with the bottom of our bottom cap. So what I like to do is I'll extend this contact almost to the furthest length that it'll go. So as you can see there. Then I will attempt to thread this on. So as it stands, it's probably a little bit too long. See, there's a tiny gap there still. So I'm just going to pull that off, back the contact off a hair. Now we should be good to go. All right, now that our bottom cap is secured and the supplemented positive post has been installed in the top cap, we're ready to put it all together. So, pants on, battery in, lock the button in, and let's see if it's gonna fire. And we should be good to go. All right. So one last look at the POLDIAC with the bottom mounted button. I'm never going to be able to say that right. Bottom mounted button. As you can see here, there is one little aesthetic flaw when the button is mounted in the bottom position, and that's that the Metal Madness Vapors logo does not line up the way it should. It is upside down currently. Now I know that Jim does have something in the works to include an extra shirt upon request or as an accessory, so the MMV will be right side up. But for now, that is a slight flaw, but I can live with it. And, a couple of other user concerns that I've heard are how can I get my air hole to line up with the wick? And the short answer is that yes, you absolutely can, but there's going to be an inevitable gap somewhere in the chain, but let's say I wanted my air hole, wherever it is, to line up with my button, which is over here. I'm going to pull the top cap off, loosen up the did a tiny bit, raise that positive contact, and hopefully that's a little bit closer. Now it's completely opposite it. It's just going to take some fiddling, but right now in the bottom button mode, that's not the worst thing in the world because it lines up perfectly, so I can use my pinky there. So no real problem, but that's pretty much it. I am going to do a full review of my own personal thoughts on the device, as well as a few more basic design specs. It'll be done in the typical fashion that I do my reviews, but that's pretty much it for my basic tutorial. In addition to my review, I'm also planning a full maintenance guide for both maintaining the aesthetics of your device, so a fairly comprehensive guide to polishing and buffing, though I don't know how valuable it'll be to the majority of my subscribers to detail my buffing process, because I do own a machine buffer. But I will definitely go into basic hand polishing techniques, as well as how to upkeep your contacts, be it brass, stainless steel, or in the case of the POLDIAC, silver plated. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I hope you enjoyed. If you have any further questions, please leave a comment or shoot me a PM. I will be sure to get back to you. Then if there are enough areas of concern or enough questions, I will, without a doubt, do a supplementary video to show off or lend a hand in solving any other problems. But that's pretty much it for now. Take a couple last vapes off of it just to show off a little, I guess, and call it a video. So. Great vape. Really happy with it. And guess that's it. Enjoy.